the US dollar will fall. This is something that is unavoidable. This is happening for a very specific reason, and that is you have a system set up that the individuals need to consume more and more debt. That becomes accumulated and is a continuous cycle. But you need to have foreigners buying up that debt in order for this system to be propped up. And that is ending now. Slowly but surely, you have country after country doing bilateral trade with themselves and avoiding the US dollar. And today, it is big news that Swiss and China are dropping the US dollar. Let's get into that news right away. Swiss and Chinese central banks enter currency swap agreement. Now, this starts off small. Right here, it is essentially $23 billion worth, but that marks a very significant point because you have Switzerland saying, we don't really want to do trade with this US dollar when we could be using our own currencies to do that. And other countries are using the euro to do this trade and avoiding the US dollar. There are now approximately 40 countries doing this bilateral trade. Now, individuals will say, you know what, it is not a big deal because the US dollar is the biggest game in town. That's for sure. Nothing comes close. So let's get into that further in a moment. RMB developing quickly as a major world currency. In the bottom right corner it says that is the fifth most widely used currency internationally behind the US dollar, the euro, and so on. So here they are saying that it is number 5, but it is heading to that number 3 spot very rapidly. And this is because of all these countries choosing to use the Chinese currency known as the yuan or the renminbi, and basically saying that we want to use that currency because it is very interesting. We can profit off of it. It is more stable in many instances than the US dollar, and they want to go with that. Well, let's take a look further into this and see what they said. This is out of China. Commentary: U.S. fiscal failure warrants a de-Americanized world. Now, this is back in 2013. But essentially what it's saying is that, you know, we don't want to deal with the Americans' problems anymore. And they have continuous accumulation of debt, as I mentioned at the beginning, and we need to choose to do our own currency swaps and avoid this US dollar reserve currency. Now, they're of course going to do this slowly because they are invested, China being heavily invested in the US dollar and dollar denominated assets. They can't just pull all their money out and crash everything. Chances are they will not do this. But what they are doing is a slow and continuous methodical process that will undoubtedly bring the US dollar to its knees. Now, what does that mean for you as an individual? Well, specifically, it is going to be hard times in the US. There are going to be all sorts of riots in the streets and so on and so forth. I've covered this before. However, we can prepare now. We can do what we need to do now so that the blow is less of an impact. In my book, I covered this, and basically what I said, this is a diagram from it, that the US dollar had this reserve currency because all the gold after the war was being flown in to the US banks and then given to loans out to the individuals. They had all of the gold. It was flowing inward into the US as basically the countries were doing their repayments back. So this became the most stable footing, and that is why individuals decided to choose to invest in the US. Countries chose to invest with the US, and it boomed thereafter. But this is now changing. It's really looking to be pretty obvious at this point when you have country after country choosing not to use the US dollar. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you do, please give it a thumbs up, and I appreciate all the sharing of these videos that you do. If you want the best intel, you need to be an insider. It's totally free. It's at themoneygps.com. You scroll to the bottom, fill in your email address, and get occasional emails from me. Take care.